This. That is all just the silk from the wax moth. Hello and welcome back, and today we're going to talk about another pest that us beekeepers have to face, and for us down here it has been really bad this year. Now, as you can see, all of our hives, just all of our hives in general, they all look like this now. They've all been condensed. So we've taken all the boxes off, anything that was on there has been taken out. You would have seen last week that we put the Varroa treatments in as well. And so they're all set ready for winter. One big problem we do face is wasps. And I've spoken a lot about wasps and shown you when we've been taking the honey off just how much of a problem they are. I'm going to take you into the honey house because although they haven't been as much of an issue bothering the hives, they have managed to find a way into our extraction room. Oh, one's just flown out. There it is. I have been jarring up and literally do not know how they're getting in, but they are very much here, and there's not much I can do about that, unfortunately. But they do seem to be finding the honey and just drowning in it. I mean, that's no bother because I've done the latest batch of jarring there and there. I think we just jarred 190 jars, I think. So wasps, they are quite a big issue for us, but we do have one other major pest that, like I said, we have suffered from quite a lot this year, and it has been very, very frustrating. And well, let me show you. Now, in here is a dead out that we have taken back from our Barfoot site, and I placed it, well, let me show you. I've placed a roof on it, and I've also put it on another lid just to give it a little bit of protection from any robin bees or any wasps. Didn't think about this thing though. Can you see that there? That is what I'm talking about. That is a wax moth. An adult wax moth. Now, like I said, this year we've had such a bad problem with wax moth, and it's been so bad that they've actually eaten a fair chunk of our drawn out frames. So what is a wax moth? So the wax moth is essentially here to clear up old comb that bees have left, normally in like high up in a tree cavity or something like that. As soon as the colony moves out, the wax moth moves in, and it literally clears up the home, the nest area of where the bees have been. And the way they do that is I don't know how they do it. They must be able to detect it or sense it or whatever. I mean, before I started beekeeping, I didn't even know that wax moth was a thing. But it is a very bad thing for us anyway. But anyway, so the natural cycle is the wax moth moves in. It's not the moth that eats the wax, it's when it's in its larval form. So the wax moth they'll lay hundreds of eggs, and it's when they're in the larval stage is when the wax moth does the damage or does the clear up job. So the wax moth larvae will then start tunneling through the honeycomb, and it'll essentially, it'll grow and grow and grow. It's like a caterpillar eating, let's say, one of your, a cabbage white caterpillar. When, you're trying to grow a lovely lettuce or some broccoli or any brassica, they seem to absolutely love it. And they just kind of home in on it. And obviously the more they eat, the bigger they grow. So like the life cycle of a wax moth is very, very similar to the life cycle of a bee. It starts off as an egg, turn into a larva, then go into a pupa, which is like when the bees cap over the larva, and it will then turn into the adult wax moth. It will hatch as a fully formed wax moth. So the wax moth moves in. I think I've read online that an adult wax moth can lay anywhere between 200 to 300 eggs in one batch, which is crazy, but you'll see in a minute. And to turn the camera around, it's probably actually not that crazy. The eggs are, because I have tried looking for them, but the eggs are so small, like so small. The only way I was able to see them, you couldn't even pick them up on the phone camera, but they're like small pink dots. You can get them like creamy or white as well, so it is actually very hard to find them. So from that egg, it can take anywhere between 5 to 8 days, temperature permitting. So if, I think the greater the temperature, obviously not like scalding hot, but if it's like high 20s, low 30s, the eggs will hatch within 5 to 8 days. I think if it goes above that or below that, it can then take up to a month to hatch, but they will hatch nonetheless. But 5 to 8 days from egg to larva, which is absolutely crazy. So the way that it's not the moth that will eat the wax, it is the larva. And what they do, they kind of tunnel through the drawn out comb, and just like your cabbage white caterpillars, they'll start off very small, start eating, and each day they'll just grow and grow and grow. So it's essentially like that for the wax moth larva. So they'll grow to about 2 centimeters, is apparently what it says here. And the larval stage, so I didn't know this, the larval stage will last from 1 to 6 months. 6 months? Depending on environmental conditions. Wow. I mean, it's certainly not taken them 6 months to do this. This is what you will see if you have an abandoned hive, you haven't gone to a hive in a while, it's a weak colony. This is what happens when wax moth moves in. And it's just, it takes over so quickly. I mean, if we just take out, so if we just start taking out these are the outside frames. No, I can't see any evidence of wax moth on that one. But there's another pest, is the wasp, is on here. There. So this is like an early infestation on the outside frame. You can just about see the different tunnels that they've been making. And when they eat, they'll leave like silk. Here we go, look. They'll leave like little silk tunnels. I'm not too sure why. I don't know if it's like a protective casing around the larva, like if there was, I don't know, an animal or something else that's in there that can eat them. I don't know, it might form as a protective barrier. I'm not entirely sure. In fact, I'm going to go find a knife. So if we just peel back some of these little silk, we might be able to find the wax moth larva, or at least a very small one. But I'll take a video on the phone and you should be able to see kind of the tunnels that they've been making. So like I said, they'll bore through the walls of the comb and they'll just create these tunnel-like structures within the wax. And then that's kind of them set. But you can see the trail that they leave, so it's quite easy to see if you have got these larvae within your wax frames. So you can see here, all of these are the cocoons that they'll wrap themselves in. I'm guessing all of these are going to be empty. Yeah. So they're all empty. But that is just one frame piece that I've pulled out. You can see there's just so much more that they've kind of destroyed. And they've started to bore down here as well. I'm hoping we'll actually see some of the larvae. But look at that. Like I said, this year has just been hit after hit after hit. Admittedly, this is probably my fault. Like, we were very slack. God, it's so hard to pull the frames apart. Oh no. It stinks as well, because you can see bits of not quite formed bees, but look at the state of this. That is all just the silk from the wax moth. That is just crazy. No wonder why I've had such a bad problem with them. Look at that. But again, they've all hatched. It's just frame after frame after frame. And the trouble is, once you have got, well, it is at this stage an infestation, it is very hard to get rid. Because even if you've got a strong colony and you try and put them back with something like this, the wax moth are just going to take over. I can't actually see any moths or any larvae. Again, another frame. So what are the kind of things that we can do to help prevent things like that from happening again? Storing your frames properly. For one, I've read that the wax moth doesn't like well ventilated areas. The thing that a lot of people don't actually realise is that they'll also destroy the wooden frames as well. I mean, if we go back to the lid, this lid did have, or has got, some insulation on top of it, and I was actually quite surprised to see, I'll show you what I saw. They have eaten into the, you can see the silk, but they have actually eaten into the Celotex, which is really interesting. But yeah, you want a well ventilated, cool room. They do not like cold temperatures, so like a lot of smaller beekeepers, you might have a few frames and a few boxes you can put into a chest freezer. If you keep them in for, well, they say 24 to 48 hours. I'm guessing the longer you have it in there, the better, to be honest. So 48 hours. And it will kill off any larvae, any eggs, any moths that are in there. And it will kind of sterilise your frames, so you know you haven't got it back. You want to make sure that your colonies, just like with your wasps, that your colonies are nice and strong. Because if there is an active colony of bees in your hive and taking up all the space in the frames, the wax moth will have nowhere to go. Normally, if you've got like a solid floor, you will sometimes see like grubs at the bottom, and that will be the wax moth larvae. And that's where the bees have just like ejected it and thrown it out. I think where we went wrong, we had a really bad infestation in our storage room as well. So another way to prevent it from happening is be very, very careful what you put into your storage compartment. If you know it's like moth proof, be very careful. Like, we were putting some dead out frames straight in without even checking them, and it bit us back so hard. I didn't film it because it was like, right, we got to get this sorted now, but I'll show you. After I had done my extraction, we were going to be we were thinking of keeping wet supers, because people say, oh yeah, wax moths, they don't tend to go for wet supers. Tell you what, they bloody do. Because within literally the space of, it was a week. Within the space of a week, they had gone through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 full boxes worth, like 11 frames, boxes of supers. And you can see that we wrapped them up in cling film or cellophane, wherever you're from. And that's what we've done. But with the infested frames, we did not have enough space for 12 or for 7, I think it was 17 boxes of frames or supers. Well, we don't have enough freezer space for one box, let alone 17 boxes. But thankfully, like, I literally just caught it in time. So we put those wet supers back onto our hives just at the farm here. We made sure that all the colonies were strong. We left them on for a week and then took them off, and thankfully the bees had cleared it. Obviously taken all the honey out of it and got rid of any infestation that we had. And then we took them back in here, wrapped them up straight away, and that's why everything is now, that has got frames in, obviously our empty boxes with no frames in, they're just left as they are. You can see at the back there. But everything at the back here is in cling film. And I'm just hoping that I haven't missed any. I literally had to go through every single frame that we had because they were just everywhere in here. So that's brood frames and super frames I literally had to go through, and that was not fun. That was a very stressful day. Because you just literally, I was stacking the boxes there. And it was just one full stack, and I was like, oh, not another one. Start another and just carry on going. You just think, oh God. Because that's a lot of time and money and resources that they're just eating through. You know, beeswax, drawn out frames, is one of the most important resources that we've got. Because it takes an awful lot of energy for bees to draw out foundation frames. As, you know, not to mention having to assembly them as well and build them. So that was, yeah, very, very stressful. So from now on, we're going to be checking, like double checking everything that we're bringing in, because that was bad. That was very, very bad. We've never had an issue like that before. Last year had no issues with wax moth. This year, it's been one of those years. And any frames that were like too far gone, we just had to burn. Like those frames, I'm gonna burn, because there's just no saving them. But that is it. And what a lot of people up north do, and like in Wales and Scotland, if you know you're going to guarantee yourself and get cold weather in the winter, they just leave them outside. But down here in the south, we don't really get prolonged cold snaps. You know, we might get a couple of days here and there, but that's kind of it. There's wasps in here as well. It's just literally pest after pest after pest. Moths and wasps. Two of the worst things in beekeeping to deal with. I'm going to have to try and swat all of these down, I think, because there's far too many in here for my liking. That is kind of all for today. Like I said, I'm going to burn those frames. There's absolutely nothing I can do with them now. They are too far gone. And I'm going to try and figure out where these wasps are coming in from. But that's probably why we haven't got much of a wasp problem on our hives. So every cloud's got a silver lining. Anyway, that's how we've dealt with the wax moth. Learn from me. We really did screw up there. But lesson learned. Don't take chances. If you think there's a smidge of wax moth in there, sort it out straight away. Don't hang it about, and I don't fancy staying in here for any much longer. Oh, right. I'm going to end the video there. Best practice, cling film. I do see people put them on pallets. So you've got like a sheet of wood at the bottom. You stack your pallets on it, wrap it up, and then job done. But yeah, it's just pest after pest after pest. But if you did enjoy today's video, please do give it a thumbs up, subscribe. We'll see you next week. And yeah, we're definitely like, I've got to check the bees tomorrow. But then I think our weekly inspections are pretty much done. Varroa strips are in. You know, we'll give you a little bit of an update of where we're at with the bees at the moment. I've got one last inspection, like a weekly inspection to do tomorrow, because we've introduced some queens probably nearly 2 weeks ago. So I need to just check up on them, make sure they've been introduced. We've already put the Varroa strips in, which you would have seen last week, and that's kind of it for weekly inspection. I think after that will probably be once every 2 weeks. Make sure the feed's okay, or they've got enough stores. We haven't actually fed anything yet. They are still bringing in some nectar, which is good because we don't have to feed them. The ivy is still miles off from flowering, and yeah, so it'll just be kind of 2 week inspections. We'll probably have to start making up some food. We have got some left over from the spring, which we didn't feed at all. We kind of made up a little bit just in case, but we haven't, literally this year, not fed anything, which is, well, it's great financially. And you know, it just shows that I think our thought process of taking things off slightly earlier is kind of saving them in the long run. Anyway, we'll leave it there. If you did enjoy today's video, please do give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you next week. Goodbye.